Good
Morning.
almost afternoon. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. We recognize the sacrifices that you are making by sitting here right now.
Really do.
We totally appreciate it. We worked hard. Joyce was not good this year, therefore they put us in the last spot, in the last day. And
No.
you
You
guys
see,
need to do.
as you probably all know how this goes, the sales job that Matt did on us was, it's such a compelling topic, people will want to stick around.
Yeah, right. Like, actually,
That's
what is this
unfortunate.
about anyway?
That's unfortunate, but here we are.
Yes. So Joyce and I have presented at a few conferences together and on a few different topics. And I'm Brett Kierstead. I'm Vice President of Sales for Knowledge Marketing. And Joyce can do her own quick little introduction.
Joyce Neff. I'm Vice President of, well, I'm not of digital, actually.
Oh, you're not?
Unless I got a promotion that I don't know about. I'm Vice President and Director of Audience Development and Research. And that research is market research. We do proprietary research for clients, and we also do our own internal research for in support of editorial products and in support of audience development.
Yeah, and our topic today is audience data's impact on print revenue. And the headlines that we're all experiencing around print, blah, 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 we're going to kind of take a counter opinion to that. Because from my experience on the service provider side, as well as Joyce's experience as a direct practitioner, the real world results and strategies that are going around print are very different from the cliche headlines that a lot of people are saying. And so we're going to talk about why we think that is and some ideas on how to do it. Our perspective from Knowledge Marketing is we are a cloud-based data management platform for the publishing industry. So we help our clients that are in publishing and media do a lot of work around organizing all of their various different data sources and using that data across all your different technologies. We work with some really cool people. Our wonderful person Beth here, and Roberta who left, who went to the airport.
We're ready to you should go catch a flight. And
some really great clients that are, over the years that I've been working now and meeting with hundreds and hundreds of different publishers and media companies, there's really a cream of the crop rising above, people that are taking new ideas and actually putting them into practice. And I'm going to try and distill down some of the cool ideas that we see from our customers and complement some of Joyce's own direct experience to give you guys some hopefully useful takeaways before we all head out.
Watt has nearly 100 years of publishing experience. We were founded 100 years ago with that very magazine, the Poultry Tribune, in 1917. Our circulation peaked in, I think it was the 1940s. We had 500,000 circulation for that publication. Everybody was growing chickens in their backyard. This backyard chicken thing, not a new thing. But we have expanded into the poultry market globally, the pig market globally, animal feed, and pet food manufacturing, all global magazines, publications, and information. Print and digital editions of all of these titles. You'll notice there are 2 in there that are in Mandarin. We do publish and distribute in China. Diverse online properties, 2 websites. I think last count there were 4 or 5 e-newsletters. And we do webinars, so you see a webinar registration page there. Conferences and exhibitions, we own Pet Food Forum franchise. It is I think we're in our 24th year, and it is a trade show. It's an exposition and seminar program specifically aimed at pet food manufacturers. No collars and leads, no doggy clothing. It's all aimed at manufacturers, and we're expanding that across the globe. Marketing services and lead generation, we've been in that business for a few years. Like most of you, we leverage our content creation skills, our domain expertise, and our audience to help our clients meet their goals. And this is our integrated audience database fueled by KM. We don't sell our tool. We don't call it a product. It really is the engine behind all of our campaigns. It's the engine behind our audience-first philosophy that we use in the company and that our salespeople sell with. It's where we house our fulfillment, audience behavior, web engagement behavior, and fulfillment. Oh, and
All of it.
email engagement as well. So
So
what we're
that's
going to talk
us.
about today.
So that's our background. So I'm trying to bring some customer experience. Joyce is the one actually doing the real stuff. So hopefully together we can share with you guys some cool ideas.
And he's out there talking to lots of people who are doing the real stuff. So that way you don't have to listen to me for an hour just
I
talking
think
about
they'd
the
rather,
things we're
but
doing.
I get it. So here's what we're going to talk. We're going to talk a little bit about print. You know, where is it? What's going on? What are the things that we see? What are the different perspectives that people have on what role it's playing both in advertising and content? We'll talk a little bit about the evolution of data and technology and then give some specific examples. You know, the old Mark Twain quote about the rumors of my death is greatly exaggerated as a quote we all like to use, that, you know, print's been killed how many times, but yet everybody seems to be figuring it out in different ways and different meanings of what contribution it has to the business. So, you know, obviously it's analogous to that. I had my own wonderful experience with my friend Beth over there. In April, I went down and did a presentation, and Beth had me come up before the company, and I was doing this rah-rah speech or whatever, and I started off and I said, you know, as we all know, print is dead and dying, and Beth stopped me and she said, it's not. She said, in fact, we had our best quarter ever. And it made me stop and think, you know, I need to get out of the trap too. You know, I need to stop thinking that way too, because in reality, it's not. There's a lot of people that are having very good successes in a new way in print. But clearly, it has changed. I think that's definitely the mindset that we have. How print is created, distributed, and monetized is definitely different. And so I think we're just trying to make sure that we're not propagating a headline that sounds sensational but isn't really true. How many of you agree? I mean, am I wrong? Or are you like, no, the print is dead. I'm just here because I had nowhere else to go. Right? I mean, I think we generally agree. It's still, in the right way, a thriving business. And, you know, it is changing. These are different surveys and quotes that come out that, you know, according to a Folio survey, and currently this is the way the mix looks, and in the future, 5 years from now, the mix is going to look very different. Now, there's two ways to look at that, of course. One of them is to say, oh, that's horrible, or it's to say, you know what, all the others are going to grow. And so's print. It's just because everything else is growing faster, the contribution mix is greater. Everybody seems to look at that as a horrible thing about print, but it doesn't say anything. All it just says is, hey, maybe all these other things are growing at a faster rate. You know, Joyce always make the comment, if you have a $10 million print revenue and a $500,000 digital revenue, I guarantee you digital is going to grow faster. You're working off a small base. It's easier to grow, and it's an industry that's going. But I think sometimes people use statistics and data to try and prove a point that isn't even necessarily the accurate point that they were making. So I think what we're trying to do is stop the conversation that way. And I mean, even if you want to go and look at, this was a study done in eMarketer, even if you take the top line and it says, you know, who knows if they're right, but if consumer ad or ad magazine spending over the next few years, even if it remains flat, that doesn't mean your part has to remain flat. You know, there's opportunity for growth and expansion as churn goes. The people that are successful at it and have the right strategy, there's still plenty of money to be made. Okay, so again, data can tell you anything you want if you're looking at it the way you want to look at it. And I think we're trying to make the point that this is not something to turn your back on. You know, clearly there's a couple of things that work in print. And, you know, our clients will tell us, ask the question, I'm like, well, what works in print? You know, what are the things? What are the mindsets? Number one is, what works is if there's scarcity versus ubiquitous. If you have something that is scarce, if you have content that is really unique, if you have something that is special, and you provide it in any medium that you provide it, if it's scarce, people will pay for it. If it's ubiquitous, if I can get, you know, an opinion about, I don't know, whatever, fashion and Kim Kardashian's outfit. I don't even know if people do that, do they? I'm assuming they do. I mean, if you can get ubiquitous content that's unresearched, that's everywhere, people aren't going to pay for that. But print still is an area where highly researched scarcity can exist. The second one is, obviously, spin-offs are working now. You know, I can't remember who presented it. Somebody was talking about custom publications, right? We're doing all these custom things, all these special magazines or these special things or these unique things. You know, those are really seemingly becoming successful. You know, where instead of these general interest magazines, people are starting to carve up what their data looks like and what their audience looks like into things that are a little bit tangential, but yet still related to the main topic.
I'll talk
And
more
Joyce
about
is going
that.
to
I have
talk
some
about
examples of that, how we're doing that.
some of her successes there as well. You know, obviously what is also working is researched content or researched magazines, or analogous to that is special interest magazines versus general interest magazines, which a lot of our clients, especially we're blessed to have B2B people that write very special interest magazines in a very highly focused audience that is looking for content in that particular format. You know, this MPA PIB study showed what revenue was looking like in SIP categories: home furnishings, direct response, apparel and accessories. Like, this is not an industry that's dead. You know what I mean? These are folks that have figured out in the markets that they serve that this medium works. But clearly, as you guys all know, doing things the exact same way that you had done them before is not the way to sustain it. How many of you guys are in that mode? Are you in if you feel like you're in a decline mode, raise your hand. If you're, well, maybe you don't. Maybe, okay. And then how about the other way? Either increase.
Increase.
Or holding steady
Decline,
like for
increase.
every day.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a mix. I mean, obviously it's going to be a little bit of a mix. Not everybody's in the same circumstance, but certainly there are pockets of success. Does that make sense? Questions? Cool? I always joked at this one, even Lazarus has risen. Right? Rest in peace, Newsweek 2012. No more print. But guess what? Born again in 2014, right? Printed again. But as part of a new strategy that really does a better job of blending together all of the products into a consistent offering. So I think this is the kind of mindset that really we're hoping that people continue to have is, yeah, you know, the way we used to do it may not be sustaining ourselves, but there's paths to success. Make sense so far? Okay. So
Still talking.
What?
You're still talking.
Oh, I am?
Yeah.
So I think the way that people tend to look at it is that the legacy was that print was the end. That was the end of all. All the business's activities were based on driving circulation. You know, we worked hard. That was the focus. How many people we can get into the magazine. But now that you have such a diverse portfolio, the strategy is to think of print as a means to the end. And the end being, how do we match reader with content and advertiser together into the appropriate way? And print still has an appropriate place. It's just a matter of figuring out where and when it's appropriate. So does print advertising, has a great place. I think this, the assumption that if we prepare a magazine, send it out, and sell advertising to it, that we've hit the mark and we have a sustainable business is what's at question. But clearly when you take the whole portfolio that you guys have, and if your object is to say, we want to get, I think, was it Penton? Was it David who said something about right content, right medium, right place, right time, right purpose? Print plays a role in that.
Right.
There's certain types of content that you guys know you provide that would not be well read and consumed in any medium other than print.
It's been a real mind shift for us because even when I took over audience development 6 years ago, everything was about getting people to subscribe to the magazine. That was the end goal from the audience side. We've shifted that because it's just one medium. It's one way that people want to consume content. And we can track engagement across all of them. So
just a couple of things as a strategy, you know, to think about. Whenever you think about any channel, there's always two ways to do it. You could think about the weaknesses of a channel versus the strengths of another channel, and vice versa. So, you know, you think about print versus digital, and say, oh, you know, how's our business and what's it based on? Well, you need to understand, of course, what print's weaknesses are. I mean, they have some very explicit weaknesses. It's expensive. You don't know if somebody read it, right? We're not sure what people were interested in. We're inferring. It's not necessarily as targeted as it might be in other cases. It's slow response time, and you're living off the post office, right? Those are potential negatives. Digital, on the other hand, you could take some of the opposite of that. But we tend to forget the flip side, which is print has some very strong reasons why it needs to continue to be a viable part of the way you guys distribute content. Most people, when you look in print, as you guys know, it's serious content. Like people, there's an implication that it was serious. Obviously, you spent the money to print it, and you spent the money to produce it. So there's a connotation of it that it is much more researched. It's easier to retain. We're going to show you some statistics on that. It's a great source for long forms of content. I mean, you're not reading, I don't know, I don't. In the trade industry topics I read, I have a hard time reading really good content on my phone if it's long form. It's hard to retain it. Print has a greater exchange of data. When you guys sign up for a webinar, if you sign up somebody for a webinar, how much information are they willing to give about themselves? Almost none. Usually, the online exchange of information isn't half the exchange of data that they're willing to offer you when they sign up for one of your print magazines. They answer all these questions for you, and they go through that process in exchange for your valuable magazine. So again, it has that. The reader is typically more invested, and again, as somebody had said, there's multiple reading sessions. Usually if I go to a website, I read an article on that, I go, and I won't go back. But the magazine has multiple reading sessions.
Shelf life. Our advertisers cite shelf life all the time on print.
And so digital has the opposite. So I think, again, to me, it seems lazy to just dismiss print without thinking about how it should be used more strategically in your business. So if you take the two, right, you combine the advantages of digital and the advantage of print, and you kind of put them together, and you think of print that way, you have serious researched, incredible informed content, your readers are strong retaining, you get a greater exchange of data. If you can mix these two and get more invested and engaged readers, that's good. You want better cost margins, so there has to be a way to make sure that your print costs aren't so escalating, so you can get margins on that side. If you have a better way to understand and track engagement, if you can target better and you can get feedback, that would be the best of both worlds. Right? Combining the best of what is print and what is the best of digital. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about how you can go about doing some of that. So just as a reminder, there's lots of studies on print. It feels like we get into a defensive position about it, but we really shouldn't because, it continues to be a great medium. People do all kinds of studies, and we all look at the way our kids read iPads and phones, and the retention rate of content is not great. And most of the content produced, especially in B2B, needs serious review. You need to seriously think about what you're reading. It's not a whimsical read. So print has proven to be a much more retentive channel. They always talk about serious people read print, like how well people comprehend and absorb. And, again, we're making the case continuously for why you need this mechanism for the content that you have. Okay? Make sense? Cool. So as the data sources that you have, so data. Everybody talks about data. People hate the word data. I'm starting to hate the word data. Somebody said it yesterday. The big data is the worst word in the world. And so if there has to be another way of describing the valuable information that you collect on the people that read your content. And I'm hoping that most of you have gotten to a point now where you realize, as everybody's been saying for the last 2 days, that the readers and consumers of your content, the people that go to your events, those that go to your websites, that attend your webinars, are leaving trails of interest along the way. And those trails of interest are important to be used to help you in your print strategy as well. And Joyce is going to show you or talk a little bit about that as well. There's also a new language emerging. Data is continuing to go forward. Even in print conversations, we're trying to get people away from talking about some of these words on the left-hand side. They're reader response cards or bingo cards. I know they're in there. We know they're there, but it just dates the channel. It dates the channel more than it needs to. The words that are emerging on the digital side, on the more innovative side of business, are things like information in real time, tracking behavioral information, contextual data of what they read. These are the things you've been hearing for the last couple days. We can't abandon them when we have a conversation about print. You need to figure out how to work these kinds of words and conversations into the conversation that encompasses print. And some of them apply very directly. Some of them just get lumped in together, you know, as part of the way that you guys offer and market the solutions that you have. And from a perspective that we look at, and you know, the language of this that's changing is, you know, typically businesses have collected this demographic data. You've collected all this interesting information. You've grabbed behavioral information off websites, and you're building this big profile. And as Joyce showed you before, and she'll talk more about, you know, if you think, how do we use the data that we've collected in an online world to help us sell more effectively in your offline world, right. That's the strategy. Because it's not necessarily saying some magically now there's an RFID tag tracking someone's print when they're sitting in the bathroom reading your magazine. I mean, we're not saying that all of a sudden you have this magical collection of spying on people in their homes reading your magazine.
But boy, we did talk about, wouldn't it be really cool if we could put a little chip on every page of a print magazine so we knew exactly what people were looking at.
So you have to make inferences, and data allows you to do that. You know, printer technology, I don't know if there's any printers in the room, but I'm sure many of you know this, but printer technology itself has evolved tremendously. They have a lot of capability to support you guys and to create a much more personalized experience. And we all think, oh, cover wraps, you know, or custom advertorials. I mean, that's great. And those are still good strategies, and they're still good printing techniques, but you can be even more precise in how you target people by using data and information that maybe you've collected in an online world. And Joyce is going to talk about some of the custom print publications that they've come up with and some ideas that have generated from some information they've tracked as well.
And really think about it. I mean, the printers are even more dependent on print not being dead than we are. So they're really happy to help you figure out ways to get that customization, that personalization, and get the readers, get the information in the hands of the right readers.
You know, I remember a year ago I was at a Quad Graphics booth, and they showed this magazine that, like, holographic images and stuff popped up, and I was like, wow, I'm not sure that that's going to be the reader experience. You know, you hover your iPad over it, and all kinds of weird stuff happens.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows if the first idea was the right idea? Maybe it was just the wrong. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, maybe it's the right idea. You know, we've talked a little bit about digital editions. Mm-hmm. Is digital editions the right idea? I mean, none of that is settled science, but it's clear that the technology that those guys have is emerging to help you. Mm-hmm. Who knows what it's going to look like 2 years from now, but the idea that you should be pushing your printer partner to come up with new ways to support your unique ideas in print should be there.
Qualified versus engaged. This slide really probably should be titled, "Bigger Isn't Always Better."
But that would get people in trouble.
It would get people in trouble. In our case, you know, we don't promote bigger is better on any other product, so we really don't like to promote it in print either. It's where we can learn to take that, as Brett said, the online behavior, and use it to help offline behavior. We look at what our audience is consuming in those very trackable ways, and we use that to influence what we put in our print magazine. I think, you know, Brett said earlier that print has changed. For us, really, yes, print has changed, but the other part that's really changed is how we position print. How we position print in the media mix, not only to our advertisers, but to our readers. We've learned that we need to market print differently to them. There has to be a content differentiation strategy. I'll talk a little about that. Because it's why should I get your magazine in the first place? Why should I get it in the magazine form? And then also in the marketing issues, saying, you know, what is the value of the magazine? How is the content different? How should, you know, why might you like to consume it this way versus the other ways? Brett showed me this graphic, and I loved it. Their team developed it, the whole philosophy of the smaller the slice, the higher the price. The idea that if you want, it's that idea of, you want that one bite of something really, really terrific, and you're willing to pay for that truffle with all that fancy chocolate and gold flake and sea salt on it, versus the Whitman sampler. And what we're seeing is that advertisers are coming around to the idea that they will pay for that targeting because they get the results. Instead of that huge mass of content of readers, they want that very highly targeted content where they're going to reach exactly who they want.
Yeah, I think that analogy is great. You know, the evolution to online and digital and trackable has created a mindset of targeting, but we left print behind.
Yeah.
We stuck with the bigger the better, you know, how big can my subscription file be, instead of thinking about that also as an area where we need to be thinking, is there a way to do better targeting? You know, I think just giving that up as, oh, we'll just keep selling as many magazines as we can to the broadest audience possible, I think is hindering the way we think about that and keeping it going as a good sales and good advertising medium. So there's 3 paradigms, and then we're going to get to the specific examples. Here's 3 mindsets that I've heard from clients I think are great. The number one, print subscriptions yield data. So you get your subscriptions, and then you look at them and all the data underneath them, and you say, oh, this is the data I've collected from my print subscriptions, right? That print subscriber file is the essence of a lot of people's audience. The other way, I think, is, and Joyce said it too, is like, what about thinking of it the other way? All the data that you have across all the other channels as the mechanism to determine what your print subscriptions will look like and what your print magazines will look like and who should be in there. So it's just flipping the paradigm. The second one, I think somebody even said it yesterday, dang it. But it was, the old was, well, let's create a product, a magazine, and find an audience for it. And now it's the reverse. You've already got many, many, many audiences, especially if you're a diversified publisher and media company with lots of products across different channels. You've already got a whole bunch of segmentable audiences. And you can, so if you find those pockets of audiences, and we'll give you a couple examples, then you create products that support them, of which print is certainly a very viable option. The last one is print leads to digital. And the reverse would be digital leads to print, similar to what we just said before. There's a lot of digital activity going on across all your products, and not just digital, but events, webinars. You know, it's not just reading a digital edition or reading an e-newsletter. It's any kind of activity other than print. So the whole universe of behaviors other than print. Instead of how do they turn into a special magazine or something new that you can provide content.
And we still do a lot, although it's the old, the new of the print leads to digital, digital leads to print, we haven't abandoned the old. We're driving them across platform as much as we can. And the digital technology of the print editions in digital format really help that. And plus we look at the behavior and we can use it to cross-market to people as well.
So here's the 3 examples we'll give you based on what we kind of see. Number one is how to increase sales. How's data and a new idea increasing sales? And Rhonda Hughes was supposed to speak with Joyce, but she couldn't make it, so I'm substituting for her. So I'm going to give kind of the advanced star story that she has, which is really interesting. Yeah. And then Joyce is going to cover the last 2. How are they using data and strategy to protect and grow readers, and how are you using data in their strategy to create new print revenues? Okay? So increasing sales, you know, the objection that Rhonda always talks about that her advertisers will say is, you know, why don't I just abandon your print ads? Why don't I just leverage your digital and live events? They're great. I'm just going to spend my money with you there. I don't know if any of you ever heard that. Rumor has it people say that. And the answer is because you're missing a very lucrative channel that is interested in your content, consumes it via print, and meets your desired profile. Again, the paradigm that we always say is everybody's all worried about this whole data first, and salespeople don't get it. I've heard this for 3 days now, and actually 2 years now. That the salespeople don't get it, our salespeople can't get it, it's too hard of a topic. And I would say keep it simple. Today, most salespeople walk in with the mindset to talk about product, and then after that, they talk about data and audience. All you have to do is get them to just flip that. Just walk in and talk about your audience and your data, ask some questions, and then explain how your products support that. It's really simple. But everybody gets all worried because it's like, the data people, salespeople don't get data, they don't understand data, they know products. And I think part of it is the obligation to us to teach them. They're not just going to learn on their own. But anyway, that was a speech.
That was a little bit editorial.
Sorry, that was...
Again, it goes back to that data word, too. A lot of our salespeople are getting sick of hearing the word data, quite frankly. We like to replace it with audience.
So what Rhonda does in her sales process is really leads to this. So, you start with an understanding the desired audience profile. She walks into her clients and she talks about, ask them questions. Who are you trying to reach? What are their interests? What are their demographics? What are they kind of content that they need to be engaged in? What topics are compelling to them? As an advertiser, who do you want to reach? What does that look like? What are the characteristics of them? Then you start talking about the program. Well, what kind of program? Are you trying to achieve branding? Do you want leads? Are you trying to educate the market? What's going on? Is it short-term or long-term? Are you looking for a program, an advertising program that it's really short, it's narrow, or do you need it to be programmatic over a long period of time? So she goes through this question, and at the end, she gets to a point where when she makes a recommendation on how to get to the audience, guess what's always in there? Print. There's a component, I shouldn't say always, but depending on it, for the most part, it's an opportunity where you're not defending print so aggressively out of the gate. You're using it as a tool to achieve the objective that the business has. Joyce and I are having this debate. How many of you have your media kits on your website? Okay? Okay, I'm going to make another PSA. Let me tell you how the problem that creates. An advertiser goes to your media kit, and they look at what is in a media kit. Products, price, time and space. They look at frequency, and they're creating a product for you.
Editorial calendar is also
right.
Part,
Editorial calendar. They're hardly thinking about the audience yet. I see the first page of every media kit has all that other stuff on there. So now I'm a buyer. You just put me in a product buying mindset. And whether I may not even call the salesperson to ask anything about, hey, what other products do you have? What does your audience look like? Tell me some cool information in there. Get engaged in a conversation. If you're lucky, they'll call the salesperson. And if they do call the salesperson is going to sit there and defend and negotiate what they saw in the media kit. They're not going to get in any kind of strategic conversation. They don't have the time to do it. The media kit selling workflow is a detriment to print. Even though it seems intuitive that you just made it and laid it out there for them, it creates a botch. It creates a chink in the process of selling that doesn't fit in here. Because by the time they get to you, they've already determined everything else. You didn't even have a chance to go through it with them.
The other horrible example that I've actually witnessed our salespeople doing, this was years ago, but was a sales presentation consisted of going through the media kit page by page. And I nearly jumped out of my skin.
It's a crutch.
It's a crutch.
Yeah.
It's important information, but it's a crutch.
So how Rhonda does it at AdvanceStar, she goes in and they have created, I don't know if you saw in Joyce's, they have AIM, but AdvanceStar has a database representation called CAST. Yeah. So CAST is a custom audience segmentation tool. It's all the collection of their data points across over 1 million different people that they have in the pharmaceutical business, in their pharmaceutical markets that they serve across all their different products. So they represent it visually, and then when Rhonda goes in, she explains to people the various different ways that they can slice and dice and target very specific people within their audience. So they'll go through and they'll do all these comparisons, and they'll come up with saying, look, based on what you just told me about the type of people that you want to meet, the time frame, the information about them, I got about 96,000 people in my total universe among all of AdvanceStar's properties that meet your profile. And here's how they break down. 47,000 of those people only read print. And that print readership is across 3 of my titles, or 1 to 3. They read between 1 and 3.
The other ones are exclusive to digital, to events, to print, plus one other channel.
Yep.
And then all told, all in, the people that intersect are 15,000.
So what Rhonda would then say is, so let me tell you a little bit more about the 47,000 that are in print only and why you can't get out of that channel. If these are the people that you want to reach within our universe, They're only found in this channel, and let me tell you more about why you need to be in there and what that looks like. So the proposal then, the integrated proposal, will come across all these various different product channels. So again, remember, going back to the adage in the beginning, walking in and dropping a bunch of magazines on someone's desk and showing the rate card is, I don't mean to be trite about it, but what we're trying to do is, that's not the end result.
And that's not the best way to sell print.
Right.
Yeah.
The best way is
It's
to
not anymore.
go after it from a data and audience perspective and then incorporate print as in the best medium to get at the type of people that they want to get to. Okay, Joyce?
Protect and grow readers. One of my passions. I protect my readers fiercely because they're my currency. The objection in this case is from the readers. Why shouldn't I stop receiving your? Why do I need your magazine? I read all your stuff online. And the answer is there's content in the magazine you can't get anywhere else, and you need to read it in this format. This is the best format to understand it. This is the format that you do prefer to read it, whether you really realize it or not. Our digital editions are print replicas, like many of you probably have. So in this case, it gets a little sticky because, you know, we're really talking a digital edition, but it's still the print magazine. Our international publications are distributed solely in digital. We can't afford to send those in print anymore. But what we do is we ask people, what we've done for the past 5 years in our readership research that Signet does for us, we ask people what format they prefer to read that particular book. And this started back when they were getting print, that when we switched them to digital, and we've tracked it all the way through. About 2 years ago, we started seeing the tipping point. We started seeing those percentage numbers for print and digital getting closer and closer, and in some cases, the digital has surpassed. We still have those people that they respond to surveys saying, I still wish I could get it in print. I said, you can pay for it, but I'm not going to send it to you free. I just can't afford to do that without making my page rates 3 times what they are right now. So we keep track. We ask if they want it, and we monitor this trend. When Brett mentioned the print to digital, driving print to digital and digital to print, back to the content differentiation strategy of why should I get your magazine? All your stuff's online. We saw this was a problem. We knew that we were having trouble with our recall rates, and people were telling us that very thing, that all your content's online. I don't need your magazine. Not a good thing. Our content team came up with the differentiation strategy, selecting what they feel are the best of the best articles, 2 articles every month that are magazine exclusives. On the website, when you find them, you get an abstract, but then it's marked that in order to read this, you have to be a subscriber to the digital edition. If you're already a subscriber, our website's smart enough to know that, and it drives you not into the full version on the website, it drives you into the digital edition, so you actually see it in that format. It's been a very successful, I talked about how it used to be, we were driving, everything was all about driving subscriptions. Well, we're still about driving subscriptions, and this is a very successful technique for that. When we go looking for putting together those integrated buys, looking for, thinking about new products, looking for the audience, for the product from the audience, we go into the database and start looking for, and you really, as any of you know that play in your data, or any of you that are data analysts, you just go in and you start playing. The tendency is to look for that overlap. When we show clients the Venn diagram, immediately their eyes are drawn to that 15,000 in Rhonda's example, that little intersect saying, ooh, I want those. That's a great thing, you're going to get those, but the opportunity, I feel, and our salespeople have come around to understanding this, the opportunity lies in those areas where you have just one product. Because if you're focusing on the people that get all of them, you're missing those other big chunks. So your advertiser is losing an opportunity to reach those people if they're excluding any of those media. From my point, from my audience perspective, I'm losing opportunity to cross-market those people. Those are my targets. When I look at those people who are only getting the magazine, I start looking deeper into them and seeing where I can engage them in different products. I look at what they consume. To the point, finding new print audience. Well, this is actually, it's a new name, so I'm going to trip over it. In the past, its name was the Watt Executive Guide to World Poultry Trends. People always thought it was a directory because it was a horrible name. It's not a directory. It's 64 pages of statistics about the poultry industry worldwide. We couldn't give this away to advertisers. This was a dog. We loved this book. We started putting all the charts online. We kind of cut it all up, and we started looking at who was downloading them to find out about that audience and say, these are the people that are attracted to what's in here. And you know what we found? The people who were attracted to what was in here are our advertisers. Our clients loved the statistics in this book. We would talk to them, and they're like, we carry this around with us. When it wasn't, we stopped printing it for a number of years. There were two marketing directors. They printed it out in the PDFs, and they carried it around with them. That's devotion. But what we did was we went in and we looked at who was downloading those. We said, okay, here's the audience. This is how we're going to sell this. We have to go out and tell those advertisers about the people who consume this data. The result was ad revenue grew 150% in 2 years. And largely, I have to give credit where credit is due, we had one sales rep who made this her personal project because she loved this too. She used it for her research. She said, I can't believe we can't sell advertising in this thing. Right. So that was a good example of a publication finding, we learned about the audience. It had an audience, we just had to learn more about it. So it's really about marketing print as a destination. You need to know why, you need to present the case of why print is uniquely valuable. What is it about those people who are only consuming your print? The fact that we have a recruitment cycle. Our data is, the information that we gather about these readers isn't just about reaching the audit goals, isn't about just saying, okay, we need to support our rate base. We need that information to be able to market those, to know who's consuming the data. Campaign for print to print and non-print. What was this one?
Well, I think
I've lost that one.
The challenge is that it's not the people that you want to invest in print. They need to be reminded why.
That's it. Yeah.
It's not just a default like, yep, you're right. I need to renew in my print. You need to constantly be reminding people of why. Why is this the right channel? In what purpose? In what case? And that defense of it sounds defensive, but it's a marketing campaign. We need to remind our advertisers why print continues to be such a good channel. There's a little technology, and then Joyce will get to a third one, just so you guys, as a tip. We stumbled across this company called Docalytics. They're based in Minnesota. They have a technology that shows PDF tracking. So if you use their technology, what happens is when a PDF gets downloaded, and a lot of you probably have your white papers, a lot of your long form content, maybe some paid stuff in PDF. What it does is, today, most people, when they sell a PDF, it just goes. You don't know whether they read it. It's the same problem.
Sometimes you don't even know if they download it.
Yeah, sometimes you don't. So anyway, this technology, you embed, you basically tag and load up your PDFs in this technology that keeps track of how everybody reads it. It shows which page they read, how much time they spend on a page, it allows you in line to see, like you can read 2 pages, and then it can say, hey, give us your email address if you want to keep reading. So it acts almost like a progressive registration tool, but the reason why we bring it up here is because PDF reading is often analogous to print reading. It's a similar type of the way content is written. So again, you can make some inferences from how people read long-form PDFs and potentially, again, not linear, but at least potentially say, okay, we may have a similar reader experience within our print magazines. So anyway, just check them out. It's pretty cool. We did it on one of our white paper downloads. It's fascinating to see what people do. How much time they spend on every page, how much they read, what pages are of interest, where they stop.
And we're looking at it to test it to see if we can upsell clients in their white papers if they're interested in having this level of detail in it and charging a little more for the white paper program. which is a new revenue source. Why should I keep printing my current magazine, let alone starting a new one? And that is because when print is done right, it's a profitable channel, and it complements the other pieces in my profile, and we still have people who want to consume it in print. Wall Street Journal, you've seen these headlines. It's either mad or genius to start a print publication. And the examples that we've seen are the people who are doing reverse publishing. They're looking at what people are consuming on their very successful websites, and they're putting it into print and targeting those people. You've got All Recipes and Politico, and someone else just did one.
CNET.
CNET,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew there was a newsy one. So we're doing custom publications. Like a lot of you probably are in marketing services. We jumped in about 5 years ago with a client who we had some issues with the client, and they really didn't want to do anything with us. And we sold them on this idea of a custom publication for their industry. It's Wallinga, it's the Side Roads publication. Wallinga makes feed trailers. Wallinga makes the Mercedes-Benz of feed trailers. They're not looking to reach 100,000 trucking companies. They're looking to reach, really a really qualified segment. And they loved this idea of having a magazine showcasing their company, their values, their product. We were able to help them out by going into our data, looking at people who were qualified to get that information by the company they worked for, and the data, the demographic kinds of data we had about the people, but also about the types of content those people were consuming. I would love to tell you that we used all the fancy analytics about where people are in the buying cycle. We didn't, because we're not there yet. We want to be there desperately in terms of the buyer journey. And these are the kinds of things that really help in those products. We've been working with this company now for 4 years. We do 3 editions a year for them. They use them at all their trade shows. We polybag them with our feed management magazine, and we make it available online. So in conclusion, we've all talked about how the print percentage is shrinking, is shrinking, is shrinking. It's shrinking for us too. It's actually a goal of ours to shrink it. But it's a goal of ours to shrink it because we want to grow the pie altogether. We're growing the other portions, like Brett said before, and like I'm fond of saying, the other ones are easier to grow because they start out smaller. My expression is 0. If you add 1 to 0, that's 100% growth. But print is still, we want print to be still 50%. And we're not doing that by telling our sales reps, don't sell print, don't sell print. We're telling them that, look at these other things too, leverage these other things in our portfolio to give that complete message. We're looking at print more strategically. It's not only, as I said, not only in terms of how we're selling it to clients, but how we're selling it to readers.
Questions? There you go. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. That's right. Yeah, and that's why we made the pies bigger. They aren't the same.
So we weren't
the pies are
confused.
just bigger.
The pie was, yeah.
Right. The pie
Right.
is growing bigger.
Yes.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thanks.
One thing I know our company has done, I liked your word where you said, this is old school, this is new.
Yeah.
Another one I might want to consider is even the word audience. It's very passive.
Yeah.
Very like, we are telling you what you
Oh, okay. What do you use?
community.
Huh, I like it.
Everything now is
Really?
community, because it's all about engagement.
Interesting.
About the fact that it's not just the print, but also the e-letter, also the online. It's how you're engaging your overall community versus just
I like it.
telling people what you think they want.
That's very
I like it.
interesting. Thanks. Yeah, that's
Well,
good feedback.
it's especially a poignant point when you think about that most of the, especially in B2B, you're going after a very organized group of people that you want to foster that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
Good
me
one.
too. Yeah, that's
Others?
a good one.
Other questions?
Mm-hmm.
We did a spin-off of one of our magazines, the Nurse Practitioners and Physician Assistants, and it's a sponsor.
Yep.
About 7,000. And we did a questionnaire, and one of the questions was, you want it in print or digital?
Yeah.
94% wanted it in print.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. There's still those people. Someone was mentioning a presentation yesterday about how it really depends on your market. It depends on if you're reaching CEOs, they're going to probably be a little more receptive to digital, probably. because they're at a desk all day. They're sitting, they can read that kind of format. If you're reaching people who are in the field, nurse practitioners, you're reaching, farmers, you're reaching, now not to say that farmers, because I caught Matt in this yesterday, so I have to make amends. Farmers are using digital, trust me, they're using digital. But again, it's that long form journalism might not work the best there. So,
Yeah.
because they're not sitting in front of a desk all day investing that kind of time. But it really
Yeah.
is all about that. And like I said, for us, the tipping point in seeing, and I've heard it anecdotally, we go to a big trade show every April. It used to be the International Poultry Expo, but now it's the Production and Processing Expo because it's not just about poultry. But people come and sign up for subscriptions for us, and when we first started restricting international to strictly digital, we felt like we had to apologize for that. Like, I'm sorry, you can't get it in print, you can only get it in digital. And it was about that 2 or 3 years ago, people started saying, no, that's how I want it.
Yeah.
And now they really do. We don't apologize anymore. You can get it in the digital edition. And yes, people will still say, can I get it in print? Yes, if you pay for it. But when they said, no, that's how I want it, it was just the tide had shifted.
Yes.
You talked about your
Mm-hmm.
and then I noticed you have a lot of growth.
Yes.
You talked a little bit about your media, how media opportunities for advertisers play into your
With our event strategy, it's part of that marketing mix, and we tell them about the fact that you're reaching with the events, you're reaching that tiny little slice of the audience that attend there, and it's, again, where you can show the engagement and show that, yes, we have these 1,200 people that you're reaching if you're tied in with the event itself, but look at these other opportunities, and we market our event all year round. So they're getting the benefit of that, but the idea that you need these other media to reach that rest of the circle. You've got this tiny little piece, the people that show up. So our event portion is growing, and it's growing on the back of that one event franchise we have. So we're still learning. We've been doing that one event for 24 years, and it's honestly, sometimes it's amazing to think that it's managed to last that long, how we haven't tripped ourselves up and how we've, how we get in each other's way over it. We've gotten much better and much more sophisticated. We've got an events marketer. We've got some people really helping us to help us refine those very strategies. Is that something that you've done or you're looking to do as well? Because if it is, I'd love to talk to you, because we're looking to learn from as many people as we can.
I saw
Okay.
one client did something that was fun. I don't know if it would work at yours, but what they did was they were having an event, and they looked at the most popular articles read by editor. So they looked at like who wrote the articles on all their other places. And then at the show, when they were marketing the show, they said they had a meet the editor section, and they marketed it out to all the people. They looked at the data and said, who's all the people that have read super important editors' content? And then they said, hey, come to the show and meet Bob the editor. And because they knew who liked Bob's articles by looking at all the readership information, and almost made a celebrity to a degree out of it. So I think that was kind of a fun way to take event marketing as an idea and combine it with some of your other editorial successes in other places, if you have an editor that you think, that particularly may generate some level of celebrity or level of interest. I think it was kind of a fun way of combining the two ideas.
And we certainly do some marketing targeting by looking at the folks who do attend the event and the types of things that they're interested in, and we try to model those in terms of reaching out to other people in the audience. But like I said, it's 24 years is just a happy accident. We're kind of like the squirrel finding the acorn. It's a great event, though. It's a
Any
great
other
event.
questions? We're on our time.
We're at our
Were
time.
we 11:55?
We are.
Look at that.
Wow.
Amazing.
Good
Much
work.
time as we spent rehearsing. Any other questions? Thanks for staying. I know this is
We
the hard
usually-
time, but we appreciate it. Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so much.